suffers
We're
from
gonna
the
come
same
back
thing.
to
But
Calvary.
she periodically throws parties. When she does, she'll throw a party. When she does, she has to clean the house up for
Go on to
the
Midway then.
I used to do it for my birthday. So every August, I would spend weeks getting ready.
Not everywhere. Not everywhere. Okay, okay, we're fine. Stay home. Orders are orders. That's right, we're gonna stay home.
But the truth is,
And you know,
it's long shot.
Andy's bringing
You guys can call me out on this.
You know we're already doing this. Oh yeah, so I left the big.
Well, how's my hair looking?
Actually, if I can see you, that would be more than because the grandparents are always pleased because they can see Jeremiah usually because he's like running out of it, but they can't see
Can't
him.
see her head. No. I told her I can't keep talking. I look at her. No, we were finished. Last week we were kidding, but I was thinking.
Where'd you go then? And where's your Sunday school class?
You know, you said you're never gonna hurt it when
So what we're supposed to do is
Are we even close to working on source? That's what you shared.
sorry about that. I thought he was going to get
You have a lot going, otherwise it's gonna be going slow. Oh, I guess we're not doing it today.
yeah,
We gotta do it either. Battery's been down in front of
I
you.
learned that sometimes we're only going to do this
Right by the front of it.
That's what I was saying. You wanna yell that in your mouth? And now the other live right there.
Yeah. I just got by there from going down Main.
I had to have them on the head a couple times. Go, are you ready? Or you just really quick? You did good today, buddy.
Because you are essential.
I think you're putting stuff in the, it looked more like this in shed. Yeah. I'm just gonna read it. Well, good morning. I made a countdown video and my sound guy just didn't watch it anyway, so I'm gonna make fun of him real quick. Just to have a little fun with him. He's gonna get me back later over the fence, don't worry. I want to start this morning by reading from Psalm 13. It says, "How long, Lord, will you forget me? Will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I wrestle with my thoughts, and day after day have sorrow in my heart? How long will my enemy triumph over me? Look on me and answer me, Lord my God. Give light to my eyes where I will sleep in death. And my enemy will say, I've overcome him. And my foes will rejoice when I fall. But I trust in your unfailing love. My heart rejoices in your salvation. I will sing the Lord's praise, for he has been good to me." Sometimes God feels distant. Sometimes God feels far away. Sometimes we don't feel like God's there. I don't know about you, I've been there. Where it's almost like I pray and I talk to God and might as well just bounce off the ceiling and come back because I feel like there's no connection. I don't feel anything. And I love the Psalms because they display that. They show us that. David doesn't hide that from us. He says, no, this is it. Some days I don't feel like I'm close to God. I don't feel like God's listening. I don't feel like he hears me. I feel like I'm alone in this, that my enemies are going to overcome me. Our feelings, the Word of God tells us the heart is deceitful above all else. Our feelings are not what we're supposed to listen to. Our feelings are not what we trust in. As one of my favorite philosophers, Master Yoda, says, feelings you cannot trust, right? You cannot trust those things all the time. They're going to lie to us. They're going to tell us things that simply aren't true. I love these Psalms that start that way because all of them end up the same way. There's some moment where like this one, but despite all my feelings, despite all this stuff on the outside that says this, I'm going to trust in your unfailing love. I'm going to trust in your word, God, the things you have told me, that you will never leave me, that you'll never forsake me, that no matter what, nothing can separate me from your love. I'm going to trust in your word, and I'm going to trust the things you said to me, even above my own feelings. So as we begin our time of worship today, I want us to sing that as a prayer to begin this morning, inviting God into our midst, inviting him to speak the truth to us this morning. So if you'll stand and join us as we sing, Here's My Heart.
Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Speak what is true. Here's my heart, Lord.
important thing that's true is that Jesus loves us. That he came for us, that he died for us, that as Romans 5:8 says, even while we were sinners, even while we were distant and separate and enemies of God, Christ died for us. He died for us and made it possible for us to have a relationship with him. That's why we got here today. That's what makes us a family. He calls us to himself. He calls us out of the grave to come to him and follow him. He gives us a new life and a new spirit, makes us new creations, and sets us free so that we can walk with him. So let's continue to praise him for that this morning. This is, so come to the altar and resurrection power.
Have you come to the end of your
and have a seat. He's given us freedom. He calls us out of the grave to that altar. He's gone and he's done everything to give us this new life. And he calls us to it and says, all right, I want you to follow me. I want you to be with me. I'm going to give you this resurrection power. And he breaks us free of those chains from sin, from death. But the question becomes for us, what are we going to do with our newfound freedom? Right? Now, for some of you, this can be a tough question, just because it's been a while. How many remember the first day that you could legally drive a car? Anybody? Right? I do, barely, right? It's getting a little fuzzy. I was just supposed to go get my permit one day, and a miracle happened. We go down to the MVD, I take my test, and the guy goes, actually, we don't have anybody here. If you want to take the written test or the driving test real quick, it'll take about 20 minutes and you can be done. When has there ever not been a wait at the MVD ever before? But that day, there was no wait. So I show up to school. I was just supposed to have a permit. I show up with a full license, right? Back in the old days, before all this provisional, I was 15. Here's your license. Yes. It's idiots like me, why y'all have to follow those new rules, by the way, just okay. My generation's fault. They didn't change that until, man, we gotta do something about these kids, right? Because I did things like this. My first day, it's a Friday. I was a freshman, we had a freshman football game on Thursday. It's Friday, we had a nice light little practice the day after, and after practice, my dad had let me keep his car. My first class of the day was my dad's class. It's a long story. My dad taught a Bible class at my high school, right? So I got to go to his class, which meant I could show up late and not get in trouble, which was great. Came in handy a lot. Right? But he just let me take his car. Because, he got his full license. I guess we'll let him take the car. It's his first day driving. And my dad had a Ford Probe, which is about a couple inches bigger than my shoe, right? It's a tiny, tiny little car. And we stuffed 8 guys into that thing after we got done with football practice. And I took 7 of my friends home from practice. And they're like, he can drive! Right? It was really fun. It was one thing to get us all in there. It was another to watch everybody get out every time we dropped somebody off. Because that was 7 different stops, right? I was glad I was driving, so I knew where I was sitting. Right? Probably not the wisest move. Didn't always use freedom as it was supposed to be, right? How many of you, the first time after you moved out of your house, remember that was? Everybody go to bed at a nice, reasonable hour when they first moved out. I already know the Norris boys' answer because they were talking about this morning during making breakfast, right? We don't always choose those things wisely. I know I didn't, right? How many growing up had to make your bed every day? Like mom or dad, check, you had to make your bed. Now keep your hand up if after you moved out of the house and mom or dad was in there, you kept making your bed every day. There's a few of you weirdos, okay? That's fine. That's fine. Right? This is a gross story. I was lucky if I had sheets on my bed in parts of college. Like, it was just like, whatever. Till a girl came around, I didn't really care, right? It didn't matter. Right? When you grew up at home, you probably had a nice meal that was nice in proportion, had some veggies on the plate and stuff. My freshman year of college, I figured out how to take our mixing bowl and dump 2 packages of mac and cheese in it at the same time and cook it in the microwave very quickly. Right? Because who needs to sit down with an actual plate of real food when I can sit on the couch with a giant bowl of macaroni and cheese? That's just as good, right? We don't always use our freedom very wisely. We get easily get carried away with it. Like, I don't have to do this. No one's here to stop me. I can just do what I want. It's true in our life, and it's also true in our spiritual life as well. That God has given us this freedom, but we have to be careful with it. In Galatians 5, Paul says, you were called to be free, but do not use your freedom to indulge the flesh. Rather, serve one another humbly in love. And many of Paul's letters have a line like this somewhere in there, where he reminds us, hey, you're free, but remember why you're free. Remember what you're supposed to do with that freedom. It's not just for you. And last week we started talking about this idea of being a fan or being a follower, and here's how this breaks down with our freedom. Fans believe Jesus died, and he has given them freedom. Absolutely, positively. But for them, that means they can do whatever they want. I'm free, nothing's holding me back. It's kind of like getting a flu shot. I'm immune. I can go anywhere I want now. I'm good to go. Followers, on the other hand, believe Jesus died, and now in their freedom choose to follow him. As Paul says, he makes himself a slave for Christ. He chooses to give his freedom to God and say, it's yours. I will do whatever he wants. Instead of doing whatever I want, I give up that right and do what Christ wants. Now, there's lots of reasons why God gives us marriage, because it shows this great picture between the relationship he wants to have with his church. And there's a lot of aspects of that today, but today I want you to think about this one. Because this is the question I want us to ask ourselves today. When it comes to being a fan or a follower, is did you make a decision or a commitment? Did you make a decision about who Jesus is, or did you make a commitment to follow Jesus? Because there's a difference. That decision is important, but it has to lead to this commitment. In October of 2005, I got this great little note. It was a quasi-birthday present, a little daily reading Bible, and this awesome note from a really pretty girl. So I still have the note. She's over there, right? John. But I get this little card, this little note from her, and it read this thing, and in that, it wasn't all sappy and romantic. It was like, I don't know what the heck this is, but we should make this about God, not about us, okay? And in that moment, I went, that's what I want. This is what I needed in a relationship. And I knew right then and there that I could marry this girl. Made a decision. Year and a half later, I finally made a commitment. April 2007, we got married, okay? Not that I was, I tried to jump the gun earlier, and she made me slow my roll a little bit. Calm down. You ever returned a wedding ring, an engagement ring, by the way? That's an awkward conversation, by the way. When you go back to the store and you're like, yeah, I'd like to return this, and they're like, oh, can we find you something else? Like, dude, sense the moment. Like, I'm returning an engagement ring. Let's just follow the logic here. She didn't say no. I didn't have a long conversation, but she got another one eventually. The second one was better. Look, it is deeply important to make a decision about who Jesus is. That is essential. That is foundational to our faith, to know who he is and what we believe that. But that's just the beginning. Right? I could have taken that note that I got from Joni and been like, oh, this is great. This is the kind of girl I should want to marry, and that's fantastic, and that's cool. I'm real happy about it. And if it stopped there, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be your pastor. These two people sitting next to her wouldn't exist, right? It took more than that. There was more to follow that. And the same thing is true with our relationship with Jesus. It's great to make a decision about who Jesus is. Say, yeah, he's the Son of God. He's this, he's that. But there is more steps to take. There's also that commitment to following him and going wherever he wants us to go, to have that relationship with him. And last week I mentioned that Jesus has these moments where he defines the relationship with people, DTR, where he talks to someone and asks them, like, what kind of relationship do you really want to have with me? Where is this going? And a big one of those he has is in John chapter 3 with Nicodemus. That's where we're going to be this morning. Because in this one's face to face. This is just Jesus and Nicodemus. Right? Most of the other ones, Jesus is talking to the crowd, or there's at least people around, but this is a one-on-one moment where Nicodemus shows up thinking he's going to have this great conversation with Jesus. They're going to pat on the back, maybe. It's going to be great. But here's how it starts. In John chapter 3, there was a Pharisee, a man named Nicodemus, who was a member of the Jewish ruling council. He came to Jesus at night and said, Rabbi, we know that you are a teacher who has come from God, for no one could perform the signs you were doing if God were not with him. Now, on the surface, this looks really great. Nicodemus shows up and it says really nice, calls him Rabbi. We know you're a teacher from God. God can be with you. He says some really great things. But notice when Nicodemus comes. He comes at night when nobody's around, when it's dark, when no one will see him. Now you might think there's lots of times where we see Jesus and there's crowds around him and it's hard for people to get to Jesus. There's a woman that just barely touches his robe because that's all she can manage to do. There's the crazy friends who cut a hole in somebody else's roof and drop their friend down because they just can't get close enough to Jesus. Nicodemus is not one of those people. This is an important, powerful, influential guy. He's not just a Pharisee, he's part of the Jewish ruling council. This select group, even amongst the Pharisees. And if he walked through a crowd of ordinary common people and asked them to get out of the way, they're going to get out of the way. He could have talked to Jesus anytime he wanted to. He could have gone up at any moment and asked Jesus anything he wanted. He had that kind of influence. He had that kind of status in this culture. But he doesn't do that. He comes at night because he's not ready to do this out in front of everybody yet. Yeah, he's made a decision about Jesus. He thinks Jesus is from God, and he wants to come talk to him. He wants to investigate. He wants to check it out some more. And that's perfectly fine. It's a good thing. Paul commends us for double checking, for being really sure about things. Jesus is going to do that too, as we'll see over the course of this fan and follower stuff, that he wants you to be sure You know what you're committing to, what you're doing, who you're following. But that's where Nicodemus is at this point. He's not a follower yet. He's a fan. He's a big fan, right? Oh, you're definitely from God. Like, you have to be. But you notice he's coming at night when nobody else will see. So does Jesus congratulate him? Oh, you got it. You figured it out. You caught me. I am from God. Well done. No, he kind of turns on him. He asks this question that Nicodemus is not expecting at all. It says, very truly, I tell you, no one can see the kingdom of God unless they're born again. Nicodemus is thrown off. He's thrown so far off that he thinks Jesus is being literal. And in verse 4, he's like, wait, I have to go back in my mother's womb and come back out again in order to see God? This was a huge blow for a man as religious and as well off as Nicodemus. He has spent his life learning and memorizing and checking things off that religious to-do list. And he's not just become a Pharisee, he's a Pharisee among Pharisees, kind of like Paul. We'll talk about himself that way. He has done it all. His list of religious accomplishments was lengthy. He had done a lot of things. And yet here's Jesus saying, the only way actually to be part of my kingdom is to be born again. Basically, he just said, you can throw out all your religious stuff that you've done. You have to be born again. And Nicodemus is so thrown at first that he thinks he's being literal. I have to go back to my mother's womb? Jesus quickly brushes that out. Says, very truly, I tell you, no one can enter the kingdom of God unless they are born of water and the Spirit. Flesh gives birth to flesh, but the Spirit gives birth to spirit. You should not be surprised at my saying you must be born again. The wind blows wherever it pleases, you hear its sound, but you cannot tell where it comes from or where it is going. So it is with everyone born of the Spirit. Right? There's some serious implications here for Nicodemus, because what Jesus is saying is you have to get a new life. You have to have this new life. You have to be born again, and not just the physical stuff, because you're pretty good at that. You're a Pharisee. You've learned how to play that game, how to do all those things, check all the boxes. But you need something more. You need something that only the Spirit can give you. You have to have this new life. This is not just something that you can just add to your existing life. This is something brand new. And the implication is, if I'm going to give you something brand new, that means you're going to have to let go of the old one. That you can't keep them both. That must have been really tough for Nicodemus to hear right now. He's processing this. And almost through this whole passage, when I read it, I can kind of just feel the wheels turning in Nicodemus' head. He doesn't really say a lot. He shows up and makes this great declaration, and then he goes, wait, what? Wait, how can this be? And that's it. The rest is Jesus talking to him, right? Because in verse 9, he's still not getting it. He's like, okay, well, he didn't mean I have to literally be born again in my mother's womb, but how does this work? And Jesus continues in verse 10, says, you are Israel's teacher, and do you not understand these things? Very truly, I tell you, we speak of what we know, and we testify to what we have seen, but still you people do not accept our testimony. I have spoken to you of earthly things, and you do not believe. How then will you believe if I speak of heavenly things? No one has ever gone into heaven except the one who came from heaven, the Son of Man. Just as Moses lifted up the snake in the wilderness, so the Son of Man must be lifted up, so that everyone who believes may have eternal life in him. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him. Whoever believes in him is not condemned. Whoever does not believe stands condemned already, because they have not believed in the name of God's one and only Son. Here's what he's telling Nicodemus, right? You have to get this new life. You have to have this new spirit in you. Here's how that happens. I have to die, and you have to come get it from me. I have to save you. Now, I don't know about you. There's something written between the lines there. When Jesus is saying, I have come to save the world, what he's saying is you cannot save yourself. You need me to do this for you. And for a man as religious as Nicodemus, who had done so much for himself in this area, this was probably really tough to hear. That he's sitting there going, wait, I did all this stuff, and you mean it's not enough? And Jesus says, yes, exactly. You need me to come and save you. I'm going to have to be lifted up. He alludes not just to his death, but literally to the crucifixion. I'm going to have to be lifted up, and you're going to have to look at me. That reference there, he said, just like Moses lifted up the snake, is one of the most terrifying stories in the entire Bible for me. The guy scared of snakes. All right? Because snakes start going among the people of Israel as they're out there wandering with Moses through the desert, and they get in trouble. And so God lets these snakes come and they're killing people. Every snake bite, these people are dying. And instead of just getting rid of the snakes, God gives them an interesting solution. It says, Moses, make this bronze snake and hold it up. And here's how the people survive. They don't survive because the snakes don't bite them. They're getting bit by the snakes constantly. And say, if someone gets bitten, they just need to look up at this, trust in me, and they won't die. He doesn't stop the snake from, I'm already dead, okay? It's not the venom in the snake that's going to kill me. It's the sheer fright of the moment, okay? Right? I killed a snake this week. Working in my alley, cutting down weeds, it was a little garden snake. Maybe that big, okay? Is basically not much bigger than a worm, all right? It is not. This is not going to hurt anything. It's not going to hurt anyone. But the first time I saw it, it skittered that way and I ran that way, okay? I don't do snakes. I sucked it up. I found it again. I had my big old long flat shovel and I'm sticking. I chopped off his little bitty head, okay? Threw it away in that garbage bag. There's some of the trash I cleaned up from back there that's still sitting in the alley because it didn't fit in the dumpster. The one with the snake in it, it's in the dumpster, okay? I want that thing gone and away as soon as possible. I don't like snakes. This moment where the people of Israel, what they had to do was simply to look at and trust God. To look up and do what he said. And that's exactly what Jesus is saying here too. You want to survive this? You want to have eternal life? You have to look at me. You have to get it from me. I'm going to be lifted up. I'm going to be put up on that cross, and you're going to have to trust me. Not trust yourself, not trust in all your religious activity and all the things you know and all the things you've done and all the to-do lists you completed. You have to get this from me. You can't do that just by making a decision. That's not just making a decision, all right? This is who Jesus is. That requires making a commitment, having a relationship with Jesus. It takes more than just that decision. But we don't like to make that decision. Jesus already knows this. Verse 19 says, this is the verdict. Light has come into the world, but people loved darkness instead of light because their deeds were evil. Everyone who does evil hates the light and will not come into the light for fear that their deeds will be exposed. Whoever lives by the truth comes into the light so they may be seen plainly that what they have done has been done in the sight of God. This probably really stung to Nicodemus, the guy who just snuck in at night to talk to him, and Jesus says, the way to do this, you have to walk out into the light. What Jesus is saying is, to really be a follower, people have to know about it. Right? Secret admirers are not followers. If a secret admirer is a follower, we call that a stalker, and that's not a good thing, okay? You get in trouble for that. If you're a follower, then the person you're following has to know it. They know you, you know them, you have a relationship. And other people see that. You can't just do that in private. It doesn't work that way. And here's the implication for Nicodemus once again. Like, Jesus doesn't come directly and tell him things exactly in this passage. I mean, they're pretty clear. That I'm the way you're going to get this, that your religious activity is not enough, that you have to have me, that I've come to save you. And this is going to cost you something. It's going to cost you. You know, sometimes we oversell the idea of the free gift of salvation. Yes, Jesus gives us this free gift of salvation as in he has paid it all, it is done, it is finished, and he gives it to us, and we pay nothing for it. We pay nothing to get it. We do not earn our salvation at all. It is free. But having it is going to cost us something. Having is going to change our lives. Things cannot stay the same once we begin to follow Jesus. Somebody approached my children a few years ago and told them they could have a free dog. Heidi. Right? Free dog. And it was free. Right? It gave us the dog. It didn't cost anything to take the dog home. It's been costing me to have the dog in my home ever since. Right? That's just the nature of it, right? It costs to have it, to use it. Somebody tried to give you a free car, and guess what? It's still going to cost you. You still have to put gas in it. You still have to pay for insurance. You still have to, maintain the car and keep it running. It's still going to cost you. They might have given it to you for free, but using it is going to imply some costs. And the same is true with salvation. Yes, it's free. Jesus has done it. He has paid it all, and he offers it to us with nothing. Nothing we could use to buy that. Following Jesus, accepting that gift of salvation is going to cost us because it's going to change things. It's going to change our lives. Our priorities, our lives cannot stay the same and still have us follow Jesus at the same time. It's not possible. The same is true. Earlier that great metaphor that God uses to talk about his relationship to the church is marriage, and that's true there too. That we give up things when we commit to that relationship. You know, most weddings have a line that says something like, forsaking all others. That we give up everybody else. It's just the two of you now. You ever been to a wedding that didn't talk about that, by the way? Because I have. And it's awkward and weird, right? I was at a wedding once where they made a decision. They sort of committed to each other. They were going to stay committed to each other as long as they were together. That was their vows, was it not? That was what they said, right? As long as we both decide we're going to be together, we'll be faithful to each other. Okay. It's like having a return policy on your marriage. I just don't know how that's supposed to work as well, right? Don't get me wrong, some friends, I love them. Out of all Joni's friends, I probably like her husband better than any of the other husbands of her friends. I wish we got to see them more often, but they're horrible people that live really close to Disneyland and make me jealous, so I don't get to see them that often. It's awful. We went to see them one time, they lived 2 blocks from the beach. It's like, wow, there's more water outside your front door than my entire state. They're from here, so they know. But it takes this commitment. There's no return policy on this. It's not, as long as I want to, until I find something better. No, we're all in, and it's going to change us. And that's going to cause some changes in our relationships with other people. When Jesus begins to take the priority in our life, when I say, I'm all yours, I'm committed, I'm all in, I want to do this, it's going to change some of the relationships around us. I have this friend named Voss, is his last name. Right? And all of my kids in Albuquerque never knew he had a first name because all I ever called him was Voss. Right? And Voss and I, we talked about that freedom earlier, that when we moved out of our houses and had some freedom, we didn't always use it well. Me and Voss are poster children for not always using their freedom well. Okay? When we had other friends that had jobs and would be responsible and go home and go to bed at decent hours and get up and go to work and go to school, Voss and I would stay out till 3 and 4 in the morning all the time, doing absolutely nothing. Sitting around Taco Cabana, eating chips and queso, driving out there's an airport out on the West Mesa in Albuquerque. When you drive back from that airport, the city lights are down there underneath you. It's beautiful. And when it's 2 o'clock in the morning, there's nobody else on the road, so it's great. Driving around Albuquerque in the middle of the night. That's the kind of stuff me and Voss did. And then Voss went and did this crazy thing. He got married, started having kids, right? He's still going. How many kids does Voss have? 8. I lose track. Okay? I can't remember all their names. I hope he doesn't watch on Facebook. I don't remember all his kids' names. Right? Up to 8. Crazy man. Right? Guess what? When Voss got married, we stopped hanging out till 3 o'clock in the morning. Imagine that. His wife wasn't, she didn't go for that plan. We didn't try it, actually, and we didn't want to make her mad. Right? Things changed. It changed our relationship some. Instead of staying out till all hours of the night, we would just go have 3-hour lunches at Taco Cabana. I mean, we just had to make some subtle changes. Right? It's at my lunches with Voss where Alyssa learned to love Dr. Pepper. I mean, she didn't know it. She was only 9 months old, and we were just trying to keep her quiet, so I'd use the straw thing and feed Alyssa Dr. Pepper while we were sitting at the table for so long, because we were driving her nuts. Poor little kid was just sitting at the table for hours at a time. He's 2 crazy guys, but it changed our relationship because he had this new relationship that took priority, that was more important, right? And that's the way that's supposed to be, right? Some people, maybe you've had this, you have friends that you got married or somebody got married and the relationship's not the same anymore and they get mad about it, they get upset about it. They don't understand that, no, this relationship is going to be more important than our relationship was. And the same thing's true with Jesus. That hopefully the hope is always that, people around you will understand, Jesus, they'll agree with you. Yes, Jesus should be more important than any of these other things. That's not always going to be the case. And for us, that's mostly a personal thing, where people aren't going to understand, and that's going to cause tension in our personal relationships. But most of us are not going to have the extreme measures that Nicodemus was going to have to deal with. Nobody here, if they started following Jesus and come to church and doing all those things, none of us are going to lose our jobs, simply for that fact. Nicodemus would have to risk everything to follow Jesus. His social standing, his family, his livelihood, he's a Pharisee, that's all going to be gone. If he openly comes out and starts following Jesus. It is going to cost him tremendously to follow Jesus. And that's what Jesus is telling you here. You want to step out into the light? You want to really start following me? That's what you have to do. People are going to have to know about it. We don't get an answer from Nicodemus here on where he's at. He's still in that process of deciding, all right, I know I've made some decisions about Jesus. I'm not sure if I'm ready to commit to this relationship yet. But it starts something for Nicodemus. And in John chapter 7, we see him kind of dips his toe in the water a little bit, so to speak. The religious leaders, his fellow Pharisees, they've made a decision about Jesus too. They want this guy gone. They want him to stop doing what he's doing. He's causing problems for them. They want him gone. And so they send some soldiers out to arrest him during this feast. Problem is, there's a whole lot of people at this feast, and so the soldiers, they can't do it. In John chapter 7, starting in verse 45, it says, "Finally the temple guards went back to the chief priests and Pharisees, who asked them, 'Why didn't you bring him in?' They said, 'No one ever spoke the way this man does,' the guards replied. 'You mean he deceived you also?' the Pharisees retorted. 'Have any of the rulers or the Pharisees believed in him?' 'No, but this mob that knows nothing of the law, there's a curse on them.'" They're mad. These soldiers go out and they hear Jesus talking, and they go, Why are we going to arrest this guy? And not to mention that even when they try to do it, the crowd doesn't let them. Jesus slips away multiple times during this feast, so they finally just come back, have this exchange with the Pharisees, and then Nicodemus chimes in verse 50. It says, "Nicodemus, who had gone to Jesus earlier and was one of their own number, asked, 'Does our law condemn a man without first hearing him to find out what he has been doing?' And they replied, 'Are you from Galilee too? Look into it, you will find that a prophet does not come out of Galilee.'" Now, this isn't a full endorsement by Nicodemus. It's a little bit. He's sticking himself out there a little bit, but this could still just be, don't we have a process for this guy? Shouldn't we at least hear from him first? I mean, we know what he feels about Jesus, what he believes about Jesus. He's already told Jesus that. But he's been quiet about it so far. And this is the first time, maybe, the first recorded time for sure, that we see Nicodemus kind of stepping out there, putting his neck out there a little bit, going, all right, let's see how this goes. If I kind of put myself out there a little, how are they going to respond? And the answer is not well. Are you from Galilee too? That's an insult, by the way. I know we don't get that. This is like me asking you if you're an Aggie, I guess. I don't know what he's supposed to mean by that here. Exactly. Right? This is a put down though from them. Are you from Galilee too? What's wrong with you? You from this backwoods little place over here? It's like all of us being, you're from New Mexico, right? Which apparently, as we had some discussions last night, either you're going to get asked about aliens if they find out you're from Roswell, or they're going to ask if you deal drugs like Breaking Bad, because that's the most famous show from Mexico. This is all we're known for. Are you from there? This little backwards place? They make fun of Nicodemus here. It does not go well. And we don't see anything else from him for a while. He kind of put his toe out there. Woo, no, that water's a little too icy, a little too cold for me. I'm not ready to jump in yet. But then Jesus is crucified. And we see not only Nicodemus, but also Joseph of Arimathea, who seems to have a similar story. They finally make themselves known. In John 19, starting verse 38, right after Jesus has died, it says, "Later, Joseph of Arimathea asked Pilate for the body of Jesus. Now Joseph was a disciple of Jesus, but secretly, because he feared the Jewish leaders." Sounds familiar, a lot like Nicodemus there. "And with Pilate's permission, he came and took the body away. He was accompanied by Nicodemus, the man who earlier had visited Jesus at night. Nicodemus brought a mixture of myrrh and aloe, about 75 pounds. And taking Jesus' body, the two of them wrapped it with spices and strips of linen. This was in accordance with Jewish burial customs. At the place where Jesus was crucified, there was a garden, and in the garden a new tomb, in which no one had ever been laid. Because it was the Jewish day of preparation, and since the tomb was nearby, they laid Jesus there." That's a commitment. These two men show up, go to the most powerful, well-known guy in the entire area, Pilate, the Roman ruler of their community, and say, "We want the body of Jesus who you just crucified. This now notorious, infamous guy who they had just killed. We want his body. We're going to bury him. We're going to take care of it." And Nicodemus shows up with 75 pounds of stuff. That is royal burial material right there. This is extravagant. There is no mistaking their affection for this man. There's no mistaking what they think about Jesus here. No denying it. They are out in the open. They are followers. They are committed. They are all in. They are walking out in life openly, following and believing Jesus now. We don't get any more of Nicodemus in the Word. But there's some outside sources that give us some clues, some possibilities for what happened to Nicodemus, and almost all of them say he certainly lost his place as a Pharisee. He was then obviously kicked out of Sanhedrin. He's no longer part of this ruling council. And most tradition believes that he was eventually banished from Jerusalem itself, that he couldn't even stay in the city anymore, that they ran him out of town. And that most likely he went to live with the residence of a guy named Gamaliel, who was a teacher of Paul long before that, who also, like Nicodemus, came to believe that Jesus was the Messiah. Point is, it cost Nicodemus to become a follower of Jesus. It cost Nicodemus a whole lot, if most of the stories are true. That he was literally run out of town and kicked out of every place he'd ever known because he chose to follow Jesus. And I think Nicodemus would tell you very plainly that it was absolutely worth it. That it was absolutely worth it to become a follower of Jesus. And so the question for us is, have you done that? Have you made that kind of commitment to Jesus, to follow him no matter the cost? Yeah, we have to make a decision about who Jesus is. It's good to make a decision. Yes, I think Jesus is the Son of God. I think he died on the cross. I think he rose from the grave. Those are important decisions to make. But that's just the beginning. That makes us big fans of Jesus. Yeah, he did some great stuff. But we need to move from being fans to being followers. We need to not just make that decision, but make a commitment to following him. Have you done that? Are you committed to following Jesus? Or have we just made a decision? Let's pray. Father, thank you that you sent your Son to save us. That as he explained to Nicodemus, he came here not to condemn us, but to save the world through his death, through his sacrifice. That you did that because you loved us, that you wanted us to be able to spend eternity with you, to have that relationship with you. So help us to trust in that, help us to believe that, but also help us to use that newfound freedom we have because of that sacrifice, to follow you, to serve other people. Not just for ourselves, but use it to follow you completely, wholeheartedly, everything that we've got. Thank you for being patient with us as you were patient with Nicodemus, that we don't jump in right away. You keep calling us, you keep working at us. You keep trying to bring us along. So help us to keep following you more and more every day. Thank you for that. Thank you for your love. We ask this in your name. Amen. As we end today, I want to sing a couple more songs, because as I was looking at this, both of these songs speak so well about this idea of commitment. The first is "Take My Life and Let It Be," right? And it's not just, this whole thing doesn't just say, here's what I think, here's what I believe. No, it says, there's action involved in the song. It says, take my life and let it be. And it keeps going, all the verses, take my voice, take my feet, take all these different things, God. Use me. Let others see my commitment to you, God. It's not just something I believe and I keep going the way I was going. No, take me and use me how you want to. And we're singing rooftops. And the chorus says, so I shout out your name from the rooftops. I proclaim that I am yours. It's not just proclaim from the rooftops. This is what I think about Jesus. Jesus says, God said, no, that I belong to you. That you have all of me. I'm committed to you. As we're singing these words to finish this morning, I want you to really ask yourself, do I mean these? Do I understand this? Have I made that kind of commitment? I hope that you have. I hope that you have. So let's stand together and join as we close our time of worship together in praise.
Let
you for worshiping with us today. I hope you have an awesome Father's Day, especially dads. You know, for years, you know, Mother's Day, you know, there's like record flower sales and all these different things. Father's Day for years was known, probably not anymore in the cell phone age, but more collect calls on Father's Day than any other day of the year. Just that was always one of the big thing that happened on Father's Day. But I hope you have an awesome Father's Day. If you missed it, we had breakfast this morning. Thank you, Eric, Debbie, Norris Clan for making burritos. We have a whole lot more of those, by the way. If you didn't get a burrito this morning, and you're like, I got one, but I kind of want another one for tomorrow or for lunch or whatever, just come by the kitchen after service. We got some. We'll gladly hand out some more. Some of us might have even gotten a combo burrito later that had bacon and sausage. We might not have chosen between the two and just full-on Good Baptist and had both. But come by the kitchen. We got plenty of leftovers if you want to take some of those home. A few other announcements that I actually wrote down for once. Prayer time on Tuesday mornings. We started that back last week, but we shifted to 7:30 because one of our guys retired, so I don't have to get up quite so early to beat him to work anymore. So thank you, Jimmy, for retiring, so I can sleep a little later on Tuesdays. But 7:30, we're meeting right here in the auditorium to do that, so we can keep our distance from each other. Plus, they don't want to be too close to me that early in the morning. I'm grumpy, so they got to stay out of range. Wednesday nights, we're doing our movie Bible study with the youth, but anybody's welcome to join us. We're going to start at 5 o'clock this week. The movies we're watching are a little longer than I thought they were, so we're going to start a little bit earlier. But we'd love to have you guys come for that. Feel free to come watch a movie, bring your own dinner, and hang out with us, and then we'll do a little study afterwards. So that's Wednesdays at 5. This week, we're going to be putting in the tile in our lobby. If you haven't been to the lobby, there's no floor in there, right? It's all concrete. It's pretty. We took up all the wood that had been in there because it was warped in a bunch of spots because anytime it got wet, that's what it does. So we got some tile we want to try and lay in there this week. So if you are able to help, if you're available, there's a sign-up sheet here. It's got morning, afternoon, evening. I just need to know when you might be available to help. This doesn't commit you to helping at that time. Not yet. You're just making a decision by putting your name on this list. Not a commitment, okay? You're not paying. But if you can put when you're available, and we'll try and work out some crews because we don't need everybody all at once trying to do that because too many chefs putting all that tile down well, that just looked like I did it by myself. We don't need that. So, but if you're able to help with that this week sometime, just let me know when you're available, and we'll get in touch with you on when we're going to be working on that this week. I think that's it as far as announcements. Once again, we didn't pass offering plates. Those are by the doors, so you can continue to give online and mail those offerings in if you need to. But I think that's it as far as announcements and such. So, Dave, do you mind praying to dismiss us this morning?
Let's pray. Our gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, I thank you so much for this wonderful, beautiful day that you blessed us with. Today we can come together and worship you, and a special day we can remember and honor our fathers. And I just thank you so much that you ultimately are our perfect example of what a father should be, and that we would strive to be more like you and treat those around us the way you would have us treat them. To serve those around us like we should be, Lord. And Father, I just pray for all those that are on the road or at home, that you would bless them and let them know that they were missed, and bring them safely back next week. And I pray for the leadership of this country, that you give them wisdom and guidance and directing the path of this country. They would ultimately steer it back towards you, that it would weigh heavy on their hearts and minds, that your will is ultimately the best for this country. And we would all turn our eyes back to you, Lord. Father, I just pray that you would continue to lead, guide, and direct us.